This week, we are talking about the movie Game Night and probably comedies more broadly. I decided we need to try and do something to capture those people who like these impressions that I keep seeing in our YouTube analytics. So people need to know up front what we're going to be discussing.
Yes.
But now we have to segue to the intro somehow. But so do we just pick it up right here?
I'm Melissa.
I'm Taylor.
And this is our cinema romance.
I think that turned out pretty good.
Yeah, I think that, okay, all right.
First things first, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. As I said at the very, very beginning, we are going to be discussing the movie Game Night.
Woo-hoo.
Should we synopsize this movie quickly?
Quickly.
Okay. So this is an ensemble piece.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I guess Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman and
Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams are the leads, I would say.
Yeah, it was directed by, I don't know his name off the top of my head, but he was one of the geeks on Freaks and Geeks, and went on to...
He was Sweets on Bones, which we watched and we love. Sweets. Is his name John Daly?
I think that is it, yes.
I think that's it. He's one of the creators. It's a co-director situation, isn't it?
Right. I don't remember the exact story, but there was another director attached.
Ah.
And I don't know if it was creative differences or scheduling or if he just wasn't feeling it, but something happened to the original director, and then I think it was Jason Bateman who went to John Daly and the other guy and said, "Hey, this is kind of your baby. Maybe you should direct it." And they did.
And they did.
And
they did a great job.
I think they did a fantastic job. What this is about, there is a group of friends who enjoy spending game nights together. Jason Bateman's brother is in town. Jason Bateman has a sort of rivalry with his brother. His brother is a major investor.
Yeah, fancier than he is, kind of, yeah. They make jokes about him being better looking, all of these things that Jason Bateman might be feel a little competitive with.
Taller, stronger chin, higher cheekbones. His brother is in town, hijacks game night, says it's going to be a very special game night where one of them gets kidnapped, and it's the brother. But then the brother is kidnapped for real because he's not an investor, he's a smuggler.
And comedy ensues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Madcap, zany comedy.
Yeah. Up to an extent, right?
Okay, well,
this is what we're going to talk about.
That's a lot of what I want to talk about.
Okay.
When we watched this the other night, which, we've seen before, I probably turned it on several times and maybe paid attention, maybe not. But I've, sat down and watched it a couple of times.
We saw it in the theater together, I think.
Did we?
Yeah, we were excited about this one and we liked it. This is one, I don't, there are very few movies that I will watch over and over and over again. And I've seen Game Night at least 3 or 4 times, so.
Yeah, but when we watched it again the other night, you were very surprised to learn that its domestic gross was about $70 million.
I remember
on a 38, 39-ish million budget.
Yeah, I remembered it being a huge hit. I was like, it probably made $200 million, and you were like, no.
Well, I couldn't figure out where that misperception came from. I never thought it was a huge hit.
I thought it was a huge hit. I don't know, Jason Bateman and Rachel McAdams are funny. It was good. We saw it in a theater. I don't know. Big hit. We liked it. It should have been a bigger hit.
I mean, kinda, yeah. I feel like that is part of it. We liked it, so it should have been a bigger hit. I feel like I know something about horror movies.
Okay.
I know something about how they're made. I know something about the expectations, the different subgenres and things like this.
Yeah, with horror movies, I feel like there are boxes we can put horror movies into. Oh, this is that type of horror movie or this type of horror movie. Oh, that's a PG-13 horror movie. That's going to be this or that's going to be that.
Well, there are categories that I think you can put comedies in.
Okay.
So, and here's the little bit of research that I did. So, I've got it.
Got a list.
I have it with me. Okay, so I've got, according to IMDb, the highest grossing comedies of all time. Now it comes with a caveat. This list includes comedy and family comedy. It does not include action adventure comedy, animated, and romantic comedy. They had another list for romantic comedies. And I mean that okay, all like immediately that's another genre.
Yeah. Oh, that throws me off.
I mean, as a subgenre of comedy, I almost feel like that one almost I mean it's sort of like this list does needs to be sort of separated out
Yeah.
as a separate genre.
Yeah, because, like, I guess When Harry Met Sally, romantic comedy. You know, like, all these
Oh,
movies, like,
like-
automatically are not in this category anymore.
And on this list, there are a lot of sequels
Mhm.
and a lot of what I think of as like comedy vehicles.
Okay.
So
Like The Ballad of Ricky Bobby. Is
yes,
that comedy?
Talladega Nights.
Okay,
Yes, that is
Talladega
a.
Nights.
I would consider that a Will Ferrell vehicle.
Okay.
Liar Liar, that is a Jim Carrey vehicle.
Okay.
So going through this list, some of the things that might not fall under the category of either a vehicle or a sequel or romantic comedy, because those are already filtered out. We've got something like Home Alone is number one, which for shame, America and the world. This movie made almost $500 million when it was released in 1990. And I remember I went to see it with some friends, most of whom had already seen it. They were like, you have to go see this movie. It's incredible. And I was like, what? Are you joking?
Yeah, I get some of the appeal because there's like a kind of Wile E. Coyote thing going on.
There's definitely a Wile E. Coyote thing going on.
But
they even addressed that in probably underseen horror movie called Better Watch Out. It's set at Christmas, where a character tries to
Home Alone somebody, right?
Yeah, tries to Home Alone somebody with a paint can on a piece of rope. And you can imagine what happens anyway. And I mean, it had this, like it had sort of the, the zeitgeist aspect of this adorable boy making adorable faces and,
Yeah, it's just not that good. Like, and the thing is, I really like some of John Hughes' stuff. Home Alone is not.
Oh, by the time, I mean, he didn't direct that many movies. And he made, after like the teen comedy stuff, after he made a run at like some adult comedies, like She's Having a Baby, that's when he turned to these like slapstick, like family movies. Again, I have a hard time even calling it a family movie. Yeah. It is so malicious and violent.
It's a mean-spirited movie.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay, but moving along.
Moving on. So just throw out some more of these. The Hangover. Mrs. Doubtfire, although I guess you could call that a Robin Williams vehicle. I don't know. He's such a dramatic actor. In addition to obviously one of the most gifted comedic performers we've ever known, but was equally capable of giving a dramatic performance. So it's not like a comedy vehicle for him is not the same thing as a comedy vehicle for Jim Carrey.
No.
Who's also capable of giving a dramatic performance. But then we've got like 1982, Tootsie. I mean, that's a grown-up comedy. Yeah. It's also Oscar bait.
So do we call, like, is it grown-up comedy or an elevated comedy? Like, is there...
You know what's number 16 on this list? Wild Hogs. That's that movie. I had to look it up.
I know. Is Andre Braugher in that?
I think so. Tim Allen.
Tim Allen. All these like TV personalities like riding motorcycles.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah. Can I see the riding motorcycles?
No, I knew you were gonna do that.
All right, 3 Men and a Baby, Marley and Me, Look Who's Talking, Cheaper by the Dozen. Do we consider that a Steve Martin vehicle?
I mean, he's the lead, but I feel like he's more... We don't go to see that movie to... Well, we might go see the movie to see Steve Martin, but it's not that. He's playing a character. A lot of times, like, when... Like, I would put a star vehicle as you don't go to see the character, you go to see the actor. Like
that's probably a
because
very good way of putting it.
they call things, you know, like, oh, that's a Jim Carrey movie or that's an Adam Sandler movie, and you just put into your head what that looks like. It has nothing to do with, oh, I can't wait to see Happy Gilmore. You know, because that's not what people are saying. They're saying, I want to see.
I can't wait to see the next Adam Sandler movie.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think Steve Martin is a little bit more like he's in the movie.
I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go through all this, but I want to throw out some of the stuff that I think does easily fall into the category of like a vehicle or something like that.
Yeah.
So, Big Daddy, Grown Ups, The Water Boy, Little Fockers is a sequel, Talladega Nights, Paul Blart, Mall Cop is one of the highest grossing comedies of all time.
I know. I never saw that one.
Okay, why would you? I also printed out Wikipedia's highest grossing comedies of all time. They include things like Rain Man. Okay.
So funny.
Going over some of that stuff. We've got romantic comedies. We've got the vehicles. We've got the like sequels or franchises. Game Night is none of those. It's a comedy. It's a high concept comedy for adults. It's not trying to win any awards. It's not like...
Even though, frankly, Jesse Plemons should get an award.
Yes.
Oh, he's so good.
There are some, I think, criminally overlooked supporting comedy performances. And now there are also some amazing supporting comedy performances that get the recognition they deserve, such as Kevin Kline,
Fish Called Wanda,
who won the Oscar for Fish Called Wanda. Marissa Tomei won for My Cousin Vinny. Now, there's, obviously some legends surrounding that.
I think she won. But the thing is, she was up against like 4 powerhouse dramatic performances, and she maybe stood out. Like it's hard picking between Vanessa Redgrave and maybe Miranda Richardson, I think, was up that year.
So yeah, maybe and that's it. Maybe it is.
It's you're literally picking between like 4 just incredible, some of the best dramatic performances. And then Marissa Tomei is great though. She steals every scene she's in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the time, I still remember being like, oh, yeah. Just like, not Judy Davis, not, oh my God, like what's happening? But looking back, it's like, no, she's great and she stands out. It's very different. Again, 4 amazing power and Marissa Tomei, but Marissa Tomei is still great. Like don't take that away from her.
I do think more of these performances deserve recognition, like Jesse Plemons in Game Night, like
so
Anthony Michael Hall in 16 Candles, as problematic as 16 Candles absolutely is.
Absolutely.
His performance is Oscar worthy. I'll fight anyone who says otherwise. It is Oscar worthy. So we've got an adult comedy built around an ensemble that doesn't fit in one of those other categories. And this is what I want to know. How many movies like that are getting made?
Well, let's think about some others. And would you say like Horrible Bosses? Is that kind of an adult? Would that fall under the same umbrella?
Well, I feel like Horrible Bosses is trying to be a raunchier comedy than it needs to be a lot of the time, and didn't get into sort of like raunchy or blue comedy.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much that deserves to be broken out, because I mean, if it's an R-rated comedy, there's going to be some language, there's going to be some innuendo, there's probably going to be nudity. I was doing this some the other night, like, would you put like Game Night, it's more like this or this?
Yeah.
Horrible Bosses, is it more Game Night or There's Something About Mary? And how do we feel about There's Something About Mary? Is that a brand because it's Farrelly Brothers? Is that a vehicle?
What's interesting is with the Farrelly Brothers, their stuff to me is now super dated. Like, I feel like most of the movies that you watch now would be very eye roll worthy, like, up to an extent. I mean, There's Something About Mary is it, right? Like, I think that is by far their best film.
Okay, so you like it represents like the peak of the form.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we get like Shallow Hal, and we get the one where Renee Zellweger is mad at Jim Carrey, like the Jim Carrey cop one.
Oh God,
like,
Me, Myself, and Irene. Yes.
And it just keeps like just.
But is that okay? So are you saying it's the peak for them, or it's the peak for that kind of raunchy comedy?
I'm saying they were kind of their own brand, and I would say there were other people that imitated those types of movies, but I do think the Farrelly brothers could be like put in their own category in the same way that some Judd Apatow movies can be in their own category.
And that's like Bridesmaids. That comes out of the, like, for lack of a better word, the Apatow factory, the Apatow shop.
Yeah.
But he didn't direct it. He didn't write it. Like, it's written by Kristen Wiig. It's directed by Paul Feig. I do think that Apatow does represent a brand, or at least he did for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know how much people are really invested in the Apatow brand at this point. Although he's still directing, he's still producing.
I think he broke out a lot of actors that people that have taken like what he did and kind of do stuff that's a little Apatow-ish still.
Well, I mean, he launched Seth Rogen's career.
Yeah.
Seth Rogen, who along with his partner Evan Goldberg, and I know a little bit about them because I was watching a Hot Wings episode with them earlier.
Hot Wings.
Hot Wings. That's an inside joke that I will probably have to cut out. So Seth Rogen, like, he's sort of become his own force at this point. I mean, he is like, he has his own shop and he's producing stuff for other people.
Yeah.
But he is also, like, the movies that he makes that he stars in do tend to be, okay, well, I mean, there are romantic comedies, or at least he has the one with Charlize Theron that the guy they were talking about in the Hot Ones. Is it Hot Ones? Hot Wings?
Hot Ones, I think. Yeah,
this is going to be so much fun to edit. There are things like This Is the End.
Oh, that's
where they are trying to come up with some, or Pineapple Express.
Yeah, I almost think of those as like his like Cheech and Chong movies.
Well, they are. So that's like, do we filter out the pot comedies?
Yeah, it's just its own kind.
Okay, so that's like, when we start filtering out all these other subgenres, I feel like there aren't a lot of comedies left. Because, I mean, if the Farrelly brothers are their own thing, like Horrible Bosses is, I mean, I think Horrible Bosses is swimming in the wake of the Farrelly brothers.
Mm. Maybe.
In fact, I think it would be a better movie if it weren't trying to do that.
Mm.
Because again, there are these scenes that just, I mean, devolve into blue humor that becomes just tedious after a while.
Yeah, no, like, there's some things that are so funny. You have all these funny people together. It's like, I wish that they didn't have to go here. You know, it's like, can't we stay here? Like, stop dropping down.
I agree with you 100% about that. So, is that the movie we compare to Game Night, though? Like, is that the... Here's one that I thought of. High concept ensemble cast, and it's one of your favorites, going back to the 1980s, Ruthless People.
Ooh.
Now, Ruthless People is directed by Abraham Zucker, who did Airplane. They did Top Secret. And this was their attempt to do a straight comedy. And, I mean, like, movies like Airplane, movies like the stuff that the Wayans do, or at least the movies like Don't Be a Menace to Society While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood, or the Scary Movie franchise. Yeah. Like, those are very much, like, in the vein of the Airplane and Top Secret.
Yeah.
Ruthless People is not.
No.
Although it's also madcap and like
It's so funny. Ruthless People, I still think is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen.
I don't understand why Ruthless People doesn't have like, I mean, anyone who knows the movie will talk about how funny it is, but I feel like it should be talked about as one of the funniest movies ever made.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I mean, I can just think about Bill Pullman's face like during some scene, and I can just laugh. And I can just pull out so many different things from that movie that just crack me up. It's just a brilliant, brilliant film.
If you haven't seen Ruthless People,
go see it.
Like you and you enjoy laughing.
Yeah.
You really need to give this one a look.
Yeah.
Danny DeVito, Bette Midler, Judge Reinhold, Helen Slater.
It's just so funny. But the thing, it has such a tight script that's just, every peg falling into place, everything, like
it's not supposed to have like Hello Kitty bride falling.
it's a what's the word I'm thinking of? When you those things that people make.
Oh, the Rube Goldberg.
Yes, it's a Rube Goldberg machine.
Yes.
It is so good.
It is a Rube Goldberg machine of comedy. That is 100% correct. Do you know the name of the screenwriter? His name is Dale Lawner. Do you know what else he wrote?
I don't.
My Cousin Vinny.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
While not as tight
Still
as Ruthless
a
People,
good script.
you can still see though him setting up pieces and knocking them down.
The owls.
But the Ruthless People, man, like
it's so tight.
I mean, rivals Back to the Future.
Yeah.
In terms of paying off the setups.
Setting it up and knocking them down. And,
Yeah.
And Bette Midler and Danny DeVito, never funnier, just like so amazing.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I mean, we've talked about game night so little.
Yeah, I know we need to.
But I mean, like we could do an episode on Ruthless People, except it would just be us talking about how brilliant it is.
Yeah, we just.
I do think game night is brilliant.
Yes.
But it is a type of comedy that I really do struggle to think of other things to compare it to that don't immediately get filtered into one of these other categories.
Well, here's the thing. I think game night walks this fine line, right? Like where it's high concept, it's not a star vehicle, but like there's like great comedic performances. But like certain things are absurd, but they're not so absurd that it's a parody or it's something like that. It's like a crazy thing happens, but the way people react to that crazy thing is not so implausible as not to believe it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And what made me first think about this is I was thinking about like the impossible comedies like Airplane.
Yeah.
Or I'm looking now, you can't see it, but on the other side of the room, there's a poster of the Black Knight from Holy Grail. Something like Holy Grail, which is, I mean, that's who, like the Abraham Zucker, that's who, they were swimming in the wake of Python.
Yeah.
So it's not, like, those are impossible comedies.
Yeah.
Those are comedies in which, like, things like time and physics don't, have any relevance. The like, highly improbable comedies... And I think that is more game night.
Ruthless People.
Ruthless People. Like, I mean, this isn't going to happen.
But...
There's nothing you can point at to say it absolutely could never happen.
Yeah, maybe the stingray catching the airplane?
Okay, yes. But, when we watched this again, I talked about how people, whichever Fast and the Furious... and I haven't seen it, but the one where there's a plane taking off and the third act of the movie happens while this plane is taking off. And it goes on so long that people figured out that the runway would have been 22 miles long. That's how long this plane is taxiing. Like that's, the literal runway.
Literal one. Let's try that again.
No, I'm not going to try it again. You know what I was going to say.
Yeah, okay, fine.
But it's still, it's taking place in a recognizable world.
Yeah.
Where, the rules of physics do still apply. Mostly. What are some other examples?
Okay, my favorite, and I'll preface this by saying modern comedy, because I'm a huge fan of silent comedy. I could watch Buster Keaton all day. Like, I love, it's just genius. Anyways, but let me talk about modern. My favorite, and I say modern. Gosh, it's probably 35 years old.
We did a whole episode on this very topic.
Time.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's a movie called Flirting with Disaster. That is my favorite that I can even think of, that just, again, it's another one of those that I think of a scene and I start laughing. And it's endlessly quotable. Like, I love this movie so much.
Okay, so is that a fair comparison for Game Night?
In certain ways, but it's not a studio movie at all, because it's still so shot very independent.
But okay, like setting aside shooting style, yeah, exactly.
Like, yes, like, it's very implausible situations, but people act in a way that isn't super implausible.
I mean, like it's still grounded.
Yeah.
In some sense of reality.
Yeah,
maybe that's a better way of putting it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I would say Flirting with Disaster is, I mean, definitely more grounded than Game Night.
Sorry, I was thinking of the scene where they're eating the chicken.
Okay, but
yeah.
Like there's even more, like there's no Corvette chasing a Learjet in Flirting with Disaster.
Yeah, no, things are more domestic. Things are smaller. They're smaller in scale.
I would say it has
it's less high concept, I guess.
Well, see, I don't know, because this is about a guy. Flirting with Disaster, for those who don't know, and again, you really should watch this movie if you haven't. Ensemble led by Ben Stiller, but also Patricia Arquette, Téa Leoni, Lily Tomlin, Alan Alda.
Yeah,
the guy from Twin Peaks and the Warriors, who has one of my favorite lines ever in a movie that I cannot repeat here.
David Patrick Kelly? I think so. Something like that. Something Patrick Kelly.
Okay, Patrick Kelly.
No, but he's great.
Like, yeah, and it's this wonderful ensemble comedy. David O. Russell.
Oh, and Josh Brolin before.
Yes.
When he was a very young Josh Brolin, and Richard Jenkins.
I was about to say Richard Harris, and I'm like, that's not right. He's one of those actors. I love him anytime I see him on screen, but I can never think of his name.
Also, when There's Something About Mary.
Yes. Okay. We can't quote some of this stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Not that we can be demonetized because we're not making any money, but still.
Bathhouses of the 90s. Anyways.
We need to do more comedy episodes.
Apparently.
So, like, is Game Night closer to Flirting with Disaster or Tropic Thunder?
Yeah. Where did Tropic Thunder come from? We hadn't mentioned that before. Now you're throwing me off.
Well, okay, I mean, high concept.
Yes.
I guess it's an action comedy. There are things blowing up. And
It's
there
so
are
absurd. So absurd.
So does it cross the line from a Game Night style movie into, even if it's not full blown Airplane, into something?
I think it's close. Like, it's probably halfway between like Game Night and Airplane. Like, it's not, but it's much further over towards, I think so. Just Tom Cruise dancing at the end.
Okay. Like, Tom Cruise would never dance like that in real life.
I want to dance.
For those who don't know, this is based on DVD commentary or something, but Ben Stiller said that he, and I guess he and Tom Cruise became friends. Ben Stiller had done an impression on Saturday Night Live, and then they did the MTV Movie Awards thing when they was promoting Mission Impossible 2, and I guess and he was like, Tom, do you want to be in this movie? And had him come in for a makeup test because he knew he was going to have, and for some reason Tom Cruise was like, I feel like this character should dance. And Ben Stiller was like, okay, Tom.
Whatever you say.
Yeah, you're one of the highest paid movie stars of all time, and and
you want to dance?
Maybe one of the last great movie stars. If you want to dance, you get to dance, and you see him in the the makeup test,
Yeah.
he starts doing the hip hop dance, and and it made it into the movie. So is that like? I feel like that aspect of the character was added entirely based on
Just some suggestion.
this like whim that Tom Cruise
Yeah.
had. Is that the like where? How at what point when they were making Tropic Thunder did they decide, you know what, if there's a major star who wants to dance on screen irregardless of character or motivation, who wants to dance on screen irregardless of character or motivation, we're going to let him do it.
Yeah.
Like, was David O. Russell thinking that when he made Flirting with Disaster? Was John Daly and his directing partner, were they thinking that?
I think David O. Russell wouldn't listen to anybody. Like, from
No,
what I've
that's
heard
true.
about David
Yeah,
O. Russell,
that's a fair
he does
point.
exactly what David O. Russell wants to do, to maybe to a bad degree. So,
But I'm trying to understand how a movie like Game Night gets made.
you know,
I feel like they don't get made very often.
yeah, not enough. But do you think? What about Trading Places?
Okay.
Another brilliant
I did not go into, on that same Wikipedia article, they had the highest grossing comedies by year. And, oh no, here. And there was a run, let's see, it was, where'd it go? Trading Places, followed by Beverly Hills Cop, and then a few years later, Coming to America. And he, Eddie Murphy, obviously, shows up a couple of times. Nutty Professor was a huge hit. If you start factoring, like, sequels, Beverly Hills Cop 2, even though that's much more of an action comedy than the original. Yeah. I mean, some of these others, 1979, The Jerk.
Yeah.
Does that count? 1981, Arthur. That's a Dudley Moore vehicle, but Dudley Moore wasn't, I mean, well, he had made 10.
Yeah. Everybody liked him from that.
Yeah. So.
But Arthur's a good script. Like.
It's a good script. I hate Drunk Arthur. I watched that again a few years ago. I cannot abide Drunk Arthur. I saw it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I thought it was very funny. I saw it a few years after that. I thought it was very funny. I saw it just not that long ago.
There's, again, the moment in the movie where they yell at the guy to eat his roll is one of the funniest things that I can think of. So,
Alert the media.
John Gielgud does deserve that Oscar.
Yes,
that
he
is
does.
Another Oscar for a supporting role.
Okay.
Comedic.
Here we go. 1980, 9 to 5. Where does 9 to 5 fall on this scale that I'm trying to define?
I think that could be close. I think that could be maybe a little less zany than. It's pretty zany though.
It's pretty zany. I mean, they kidnap this man and tie him up with a garage door opener.
I guess so.
And I mean, the dream sequences get into Zucker territory. Dream, but the fantasy sequences get into Zucker territory. Yeah. Is that Ruthless People? I feel like 9 to 5 is closer to Ruthless People, but I'm trying to isolate the game night genre, and I can't do it.
We need we have to draw. We need the line and dots. We need to do this.
Oh
more.
God, we have to put a whiteboard down here. Is that what's
whiteboard? We might have to, have a second part where we pull the whiteboard out. But I think you're getting closer. Honestly, I can't think.
I'm getting closer. Are we doing this together or not?
We're getting closer. But I think it's very hard to pick something that I do think Trading Places, also being a high concept, also taking certain things seem like this is how people might react. Having a very kind of...
I didn't even come back to Trading Places because I started talking about Eddie Murphy becoming a brand. Yeah. But no, at that point he wasn't.
Yeah. I think Trading Places could kind of, sort of align with Game Night.
Would that have been billed as a Dan Aykroyd comedy? Or would it have just been billed as like two funny people in a movie. Like I don't know that Dan Aykroyd was a brand per se.
Yeah. Not, he was known, very well known, but I don't think he was not a brand in the same way Belushi was.
And that's like 1978 Animal House.
Yeah.
I feel like that one would get filtered out for Belushi.
Yeah.
Even though it's such an ensemble.
Yeah. You know, I have to mention though, Don Amici, another Academy Award for supporting performance in a comedy.
I didn't read that's
in,
right. I
Trading
had
Places.
forgotten.
So like Arthur,
that
Trading
he won
Places,
the
Fish
Oscar
Called
for
Wanda.
that.
All of those are performances that were recognized by the Academy. So.
Indeed.
So Jesse Plemons, you were robbed.
Yes, 1,000%.
Robbed.
You know, one thing that just occurred to me: most comedy, relies on the straight man and like the gag man.
Yeah.
And a comedy like Game Night, I'm going to back up for a second. There's something about Mary. One reason I love talking about There's Something About Mary when I do talk about it is as dated as the movie is, as just wildly inappropriate it would be to modern ears. Cameron Diaz's performance.
Oh yeah.
She plays straight man to literally everyone else.
She's so
Everyone else is being funny, and she plays straight man to all of them. To Ben Stiller, to Matt Damon, to the guy on the crutches, to her roommate.
Yeah. No, she should have been, I really thought she should have been nominated for There's Something About Mary, because she just held that entire film together.
The New York Film Critics Circle, I think they call themselves, as opposed to Association. I don't know why. But they awarded her Best Actress that year. And I agree. Well deserved, because she does, like, if that movie is grounded at all,
it's only by her.
It's Cameron Diaz that's grounding it.
Yeah.
But that's like very clearly you've got like this whole cast of people who are trying to be funny.
Yeah.
And Game Night is a movie where it's not that they aren't doing the straight man gag man thing, but it's so much more subtle. Like, and they do have to sort of shift the role depending on the scene.
Yeah.
Is that the key somehow?
You know, the only character that I think behaves outside of the way most normal people, you know, the only character that I think is arguably like is Jesse Plemons' character, right? Everyone else is fairly normal in the way that they react to things.
No, and they are normal in the way that they react to him.
Yes, exactly. And he's the only one that's a little off, right?
So all right, so yes, let's say that then. Like, everyone else is being the straight man to Jesse Plemons.
Yeah. And just to the situation. Like, that's the thing. It's like these are characters that are just in wacky situations, but they're all very likable.
So do they not need people telling jokes? Is that what I'm looking for?
Ooh.
Like, the situation is funny enough
that they don't
that you put talented people in it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have somebody being overtly comedic.
Yeah.
Like, even to the extent that Jesse Plemons is like the gag man in his scenes.
He's very serious.
He's not.
Yeah.
You know, he's not Steve Martin. He's not walking around with a rubber chicken and an arrow through his head. But even Steve Martin doesn't do that in something like Cheaper by the Dozen.
Yeah.
So, where you don't have that obvious sort of like straight man gag man relationship.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. I think you got something there.
Yeah, I mean, so where does that put Flirting with Disaster? It puts Flirting with Disaster quite squarely in the same space as
which
Game
might
Night,
be why
right?
I enjoy both of those movies so much.
What about Ruthless People?
Same thing.
I mean, Ruthless People.
Are we starting to find
Ruthless People, because it's Abraham Zucker? It definitely had, like, each scene has a straight man and a gag man. Nevertheless, it's not. It is a different dynamic.
It's a different. It's not Airplane.
Like, no, it's definitely not Airplane. No. But it's also not. There's Something About Mary.
No.
Because, again, There's Something About Mary is is built around the concept that this one character is the straight man.
Yeah.
And everyone is playing off them. And it's not unique to There's Something About Mary, even though I think Cameron Diaz in There's Something About Mary does it best. But usually you'll see the opposite. And you've heard me talk about this before, where there's like one character telling all the jokes and everyone plays straight man to that character. Yeah. And that's almost every Jim Carrey
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also most Rodney Dangerfield movies. Like, think about Back to School.
Yeah.
Back to School, he's being Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And everyone is
being Rodney Dangerfield.
But he's telling all the jokes.
Yeah.
The exception to that is Robert Downey Jr. in certain scenes, and those are some of the weakest scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, Robert Downey Jr. starts being funny on his own, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
So, the common ingredient in this type of comedy, in a game night type comedy, is there are no joke tellers. It's the situation itself becomes comedic, and the way people have to figure out that situation. Is that?
I think that might be it.
Yeah.
I think that might actually.
We'll
have to. Yeah. We'll have to think about this and maybe revisit it at some point. But I think that's probably gonna be as insightful as we get today.
In the meantime, though, please watch Game Night if you haven't yet. Rewatch it. Let us know what you think. Are we on to something? Does this not make any sense? Do you love Jesse Plemons in it? Tell me.
And if you can think of other movies that might fit this definition, as loose as the definition is, but yeah,
some more movies in this category. We
want to add high concept comedies that aren't built around a traditional straight man gag man kind of dynamic.
We're gonna need a whiteboard. We're gonna have to get a whiteboard, guys.
We'll just paint. We'll get that special paint, and we'll just. But we'll have to move all this.
Yeah.
And then what do we do with the movies?
Well, we have to keep the movies. Anyways.
That's going to wrap it us.
Let's try that again.
That's going to wrap it up for us this week.
I'm Melissa.
I'm Taylor.
And this is our Cinema Remnants.